fouls and 4 for Vettel, 2 for Verstappen, 13 that makes 13. Nice one from Victor, not too shabby.
In a few moments' time, we have the green flag, and in front of a capacity crowd, 5 lights are on. It's lights out, away we go. Verstappen does get away well.
The top three here, Hamilton, Vettel, Verstappen, 13 world championships between them. Count them, down to you. Yeah, well, 7 fouls and 4 for Vettel, 2 for Verstappen, 13 that makes 13. Nice one from Victor, not too shabby.
In a few moments' time, we have the green flag, and in front of a capacity crowd, 5 lights are on. It's lights out, away we go. Verstappen does get away well.
The top three here, Hamilton, Vettel, Verstappen, 13 world championships between them. Count them, down to you. Yeah, well, 7 fouls and 4 for Vettel, 2 for Verstappen, 13 that makes 13. Nice one from Victor, not too shabby.
In a few moments' time, we have the green flag, and in front of a capacity crowd, 5 lights are on. It's lights out, away we go. Verstappen does get away well.
Hello all and welcome into some more WHF action. I'm your host for this evening, WHF Out, and we are here in Catalunya for our second social race in this WHF pre-season. Welcome in one and all. Hope you're doing well. We're out following the McLaren of JG, former Tier 2 champion here in back in the SSR days, but has been a Tier 1 driver for many moons, and could Gordon finally find some pace on this game? We'll wait and see. But we do have a lot of quick drivers out there. We have Nis and Cookie, who are probably going to be the two favourites for this evening. But we have a lot of quick Algerians of Gate Dig and Zeno and Hochin as well. And Fakiri, who was Tier 2 champion last season. So we'll keep an eye on how well the Algerians will do. All friends of Fakiri, I'm sure. As we'll go on board with Gordon to start a lap here. Although he looks to be going for an extra out lap, does Gordon, so Let us see, is there someone else? We have the debutant of Dig. I think Zeno has raced with us before, but it's been a little minute. But Dig, I do believe it's his first race. Gate was a Red Bull driver last season. As now Dig breaking down into turn 1, through turn 2, picking up the throttle as he rotates the car through 3. And into the heavy braking zone of turn 4, and a tricky traction zone up the hill on the right-hander. We've seen Leclerc go off in qualifying yesterday. And through the left-hander, this is where we've seen Antonelli retire today with an engine failure. And the championship leader unfortunately took a hit to his championship lead. But a lot of drivers there just out having fun at the moment, won't have to deal with worrying about the championship. A lot of drivers just be focused on driving as quickly as they can and putting down a gauntlet in the hopes that they can show what they're made of, show what they're made of for the team captains to have a look at in preparation for the draft, as Gordon sets the fastest time so far, but Dig, up with a 14.6 as Gate starts a lap just in behind, as we've got Cookie on a lap. We've got Fakiri, the Red Bull, in behind, goes up to P2. He must be doing another outlap, as I think we will go on board with Cookie, as Ollie Bean has set the fastest lap. Cookie says he's yet to try this car at Catalunya, so we'll see how he's able to cope with the new 26 car. Stephen Beecham quickest with a 14.2. As Cookie getting it rotated. Zeno with a 13.7, next quickest as things stand. Michael Loy up to P3. Ollie Bean went P4. As Ollie in P6 goes, does a 15.2. As Cookie now rounding the final corner. And up to the line, where can Cookie go? It's a 13.6, just a tenth ahead of Zeno as things stand. As we've seen TJ up to P3 with a 13.8. Gate now rounding the final corner, and he goes P4 with a 14.3. As Mallard on a lap. SNZ just started a lap. Will follow Nis, who's got a purple middle sector. And Nis driving in the V car today, but will be team captain of Red Bull as we head into the season. He's made the switch from V carb to Red Bull, and Nis goes quickest with a 13.3, and he has led the gauntlet. Finished P2 last season ahead of Cookie, as Nis's teammate Trixie went on to win the championship by 7 points. Meanwhile, we've seen Mallard go to P12 with a 14.8. SNZ into the heavy braking zone. And rounding the final sector, the Audi driver shucking it around today. Unfortunately, no Audi points today. Hulkenberg's had a really interesting retirement from the race today. He had some gravel in his car, actually hit the kill switch on his car. Speaking of quick drivers, Fakiri, Tier 2 champion, is a 10th off Cookie. That is definitely one to watch for the season. Fakiri won the Tier 2 championship, now will be moving up to Tier 1 surely, and is looking very, very quick, very, very fast, is Fakiri, as got Ollie going around again, and Ollie now up to the line. Can he improve? He does improve, gets ahead of Mallard. Half a second improvement for Ollie, as Mallard looks like he's on an in-lap, so does SNZ. Michael Louis, a 10th to the good, though. We'll keep an eye on the Aston Martin driver, who's our latest team captain. I think he's on an in-lap, might have run out of fuel on his run, but Michael Louis is the latest team captain to join us, and Michael Louis will be team captain of Aston Martin. And we'll keep an eye on how Aston Martin can do, as Nis his attempt to the good on another lap. Maybe then just a cool down lap to go again. Which I feel like on this game maybe a strat that's used more often, as in real life we're seeing drivers go for a push, a cool down and then another push. I think that might be what we're seeing this do, is he's going to fly through the right-hander and he has this car really hooked up here. As he's up by almost a tenth and he's trying to extract the last few tenths out of the car as the V-carb, taking it through the long right-hander of 12 and then through 13. All of these corners are flat, and if you take it right, maybe just a minor lift down a gear, he goes through the final corner. Nis now up to the line. Where can he go? It's a almost 3/10 improvement. It's a 13-0 for Nis, and Ho-Chin now up with a 13-5. He's the next driver to watch, and a lot of drivers here coming in very quick and fast here in Spain, as Hemi in the Cadillac for this evening. And Hemi now up to the line. Where can Hemi go as he comes up to the line? It's going to be P7 with a 13-8 behind TJ in the Ferrari. As Ellis on an in lap. We've got Ollie Bean also on an in, I think. Stephen Beecham about to start a lap, I think. Let's keep an eye. TJ starting a lap. And Nis on an in lap. So I think we'll go on board with Stephen Beecham in the Audi. And yet to see Audi get some points in real life F1, despite how close Hulkenberg was today. But maybe it'll be soon on the horizon, because they were battling over P9 whenever Hulkenberg did have to retire, unfortunately. But Stephen in the Audi, DRS engaged, and has a win in Tier 2 in Abu Dhabi. And as we head into next season, where will Stephen land in the order? We'll have to wait and see. Oh, there's a car. That was interesting. Parked right at the final corner. That might have been a bit distracting, as Stephen improves by 2/10 and does Stephen does get ahead of Geet, as TJ up to the line goes ahead of Cookie, but slightly behind Ho-Chin, who's 16 thousandths up, as we're very close up at the top here, as Cookie about to go for another lap. I think he's just on an extra out lap, as Zeno on a lap. Hemi up by 2/10. Gate in the final sector up by over 2/10. Can he extract any more time to try and get close to Hemi, Zeno or Fakiri? As Gate now up to the line, DRS engaged, and does improve by 4/10, gets ahead of Hemi into P7, and look how close we are from P2 all the way down to P9. It's half a second. Pretty close are the times there, as Nis seems to be in a world of his own as things stand. But we'll keep an eye on Cookie, who might be improving very quickly here. Has the straight line mode enabled for Cookie, as he is up by 6/10. My, this man, this is his second lap in Catalunya. He says he hasn't practiced it before, but absolutely rapid as Cookie. He's a 6-time champion for a reason, as he runs wide and still improves by 3/10. Interesting. Well, he probably would have definitely got ahead of Nis there if he hadn't ran wide, but still does get a decent improvement there. As Fakiri, I think, going for an extra out lap. Who else is on a lap? Gordon gonna come in. Michael Lloyd on a lap. Ollie Bean on a flyer. As Ollie Bean does improve to P10. We've got Blue Killer out in the Ferrari on a lap. Mallard marginal his time. He's 8 thousandths down. So needs to nail the final sector here if he does want to improve. Runs wide in the Haas. Keeps it valid though, And down by 2/10 as Ollie on a lap. Does he have Fakiri behind him? On a lap. No, that might be Cookie. Oh, his Cookie almost bended into the pit lane as Ollie improves by 2/10. Just shy of his teammate. Blue Killer gets his first time on the board. It's P11 for the Ferrari as Fakiri up to the line. Improves by 2/10. Gets ahead of Zeno. And it's just shy of TJ's time. But we're very close up at the top here in this social race. On Tier 1, it might be very feisty. Nis having a brilliant time out there. Cookie had a lot of pace in hand to use. He went wide at the final corner, which cost him some time as Ho Chin in P3. On and out lap. TJ P4, Fakiri P5. As Mallard into the pit lane. And Blue Killer also on an in-lap. I think most drivers on in-laps now. Ho Chin might be the only driver actually pushing, so we'll stay with the Aston Martin driver. Currently P3 as things stand. Needs a big improvement if he wants a sniff at pole here. He's going to need half a second in this lap as he's wheel flicking through sector 1. Well, start of sector 2. Pretty much wheel flicking through every corner as yeah, hopefully in this game the wheel flicking's less terrible, but you never know. It's kind of still terrible. Anyway, Nis currently sitting on pole, has a 13-0. We know Cookie possibly has that time in hand, so does Nis have more time in hand to try and stretch out the margin from Cookie? That's really what we need to see here. Nis needs to extend his gap as Nis now on a flyer. And into turn 10 as he gets it rotated in the rear, stepping out on the V-carb. And will that cost Nis some time? Is he going to back out? He has backed out. Ho Chin going again. But Dig in P15. He's on a lap. He's up by 0.02 of a second. Although he sounds like he is backed off massively, and I think he has. He's going to try and go again. As we'll follow Ho Chin, although Ho Chin's backed out as well. Nis will follow him, although he seems to be doing a cool lap. So it might be Dig genuinely who's the next around to start a lap. Currently P15. As Dig on a flyer, and Cookie says apparently straight line mode assist is on, which it's not supposed to be, so I'm guessing EA have bugged the lobby again, which, is there ever a lobby that isn't bugged by EA in some form? Who knows? As the Ferrari can see the Mercedes of Dig on a push. And does Dig have more time in this? Yes, he does. Half a second almost, as he is trying to get the car up the order, and this could put him up all the way up to P10 currently, as Dig now rounding turn 13 and 14. He's just got to keep it together as he washes out wide, and Invalid and Dig might give himself a bit of a nightmare because he'll have to recharge this lap and go again, as Cookie with a 12.7. Massive lap from Cookie there. 12.7. Almost 0.3 it is to Nis now. Nis needs a massive improvement here if he wants to get near Cookie. We knew Cookie had time in hand, but we didn't realise it was that much, as TJ gonna try to improve here as well. We'll see, is there anyone close to finishing lap? We got the McLaren of Gordon, although he's doing an extra out. Michael appears to be doing an extra out. I think a couple of drivers doing an extra out, so we'll stay on board with Nis. Is Nis able to improve here? As the Red Bull out of his way. And Nis heading into the heavy braking zone of turn 10. He's only up by a tenth. Needs a monster final sector here. As the rear stepping out again as he tries to exit turn 10. And Nis trying to push with everything he has. As there's an Aston just out of his way as he exits turn 12. And rallying round turn 13 and 14. Does Nis have time to snatch pole away from Cookie? As up to the line we go, and he doesn't. He is not improving. And Cookie currently has provisional pole and has the time to beat, as Cookie might even push for another lap after his massive improvement. As TJ up to the line does look like he's improving. Checkered flag's fallen. TJ improves by a tenth, gets ahead of Hochin. And who is going to be next around? We've got the Aston. I don't think it's of Hochin, it is of Michael Louis. And Michael up to the line. Finished P6 last year, up to P10 in qualifying as Gordon and Ollie. Ollie doesn't improve. Gordon going to be one of the next drivers around. Is you think that is an Audi maybe? Of SNZ? Yeah, it is. The Audi's going to be a bit confusing now that they're mixed up a bit with the Ferrari. Similar colour of the red. I don't know why they didn't make it like a grey cursor. Who knows? Anywho, SNZ does not improve. Gordon into the pit lane. We've got a Mercedes of Gate into the pit lane. Hochin will be next around. Can Hochin improve? No, he goes very wide and improves very slightly. Weird how he keeps it valid. Zeno up to P3 as Cookie, I think, bended into the pit lane. Interesting. Zeno into P3. Massive lap for the V-Carb driver to join the second row of the grid next to the Ferrari of TJ, and I think that's going to be our order as Nis is into the pit lane. Cookie on pole with a 12.752, and as we progress on, it's more of the same here in WHF. Cookie back on pole again, and who would have expected that? But welcome all in. Hope you're all doing well on this fine Sunday evening. And there is our order. Cookie on pole yet again. Next it's Nis, Zeno, TJ, Hochin, Fakiri, Himi, Geet, Stephen, Blue Killer, Michael, Ollie, Gordon, Ollie, Dig, SNZ, Mallard and Ellis. But there we have it. That is our qualifying here in Barcelona. Get your predictions in. Who do you think is going to win this one? Will it be Cookie or Nis, or will it be someone else? Could we see the debutant of Zeno improve and find his way past, as it looks to be a dry Catalunya circuit? Ollie Bean says Legeman crashes. That's his prediction. Well, good to know that the brothers are rooting for each other. But get your predictions in. Who do you think will win this one? Cookie starting from pole ahead of Nis, but these two have come to blows in the past, and they might down into turn one again. That might give the impetus to Zeno or TJ to go for a move and potentially get through. We'll have to wait and see. But we will have 33 laps around the Catalunya circuit. Today we had 66 in IRL F1. Hamilton won ahead of Russell and Norris. First British podium since 1983. And will we have an all British podium here today or an all Algerian podium? Who knows? I'm trying to think. I think we do have the math for an all American podium as well. So we'll see. Will it be an all nation podium, or will there be a couple of nations? I'm guessing it'll be a couple of nations. Currently we have an American, a Norwegian and an Algerian in the front three. Then it's a Brit. Then I think Fakiri's P5, which is another Algerian. But 4 different nations in the top 4. But the drivers should be ready up soon to get ready. It's our first time seeing Cookie race on this game, and he has been very quick in the past. 6-time champion for a reason in SSR and WHF. Was fighting with Trixie all last season for the championship. Unfortunately missed the finale, which could have potentially given him his 7th title, but Trixie in the end held on, although Trixie may have got a late drive through that would have handed Cookie potentially the title if Cookie had turned up, but unfortunately Cookie missed out the opportunity to take his 7th title, and with it Trixie picked up his first. Although Trixie not here today. Trixie was here last week for the Mad Ring and finished P2 behind Nis. Got the benefit of a VSC, did Nis. And will we see a benefit of VSC today, like we've seen with Hamilton in the real life Formula 1, or will we see a straight out fight for the win as we hear the chimes count down? We will have the 5 red lights on as Cookie down into turn 1 will try and lead us away, but who gets a good start? Zeno lighting up the rears as he tries to get down to turn 1. Cookie trying to pinch Nis to the inside. Nis going to try and break on the inside as they both get through, and Zeno almost caught by the Ferrari, but in behind everyone seems to have gotten well away clean. No real drama off the start as Hochin putting some pressure on TJ as a look on the inside, but not close enough to making a move. In behind we've got 2, and that's Ellis around as expected, as Fakiri dropping down like a stone in water as Blue Killer trying to dive around the outside of Fakiri, as Hochin also putting pressure on TJ here, as it's been a clean enough start. Ollie Bean battling with Stephen Beecham, and Ollie Bean gets through. Stephen on the outside of Stephen, gaped on. Oh no! Oh, Blue Killer just about survives. We've got cars absolutely everywhere here, almost 5 wide at parts, as the McLaren getting through of Gordon. And Gordon's around! Gordon's spotted, he's absolutely caught up everyone. And Gordon gets a 10-second penalty. A very quick pen to hand out there as Gordon spins the rears. And major drama off the start here, as everyone seems to have finally gotten away. Mallard in a drag race with Ollie Bean. Down into turn 1. Can Mallard outbrake the Williams in the Haas? Here's Mallard braking later than Ollie Bean and gets through. And a lovely move from Mallard as Fakiri battling as Michael Louis drops down the order. Michael Louis may have left the track there. He's dropped behind Mallard as well. As in behind there's another 3 wide as Ollie getting through on Ollie Bean, as SNZ's got a good viewpoint of this as Ollie Bean washes out wide onto the grass, as SNZ also getting through to Michael Louis. Does Michael have damage? I think he does. Michael struggling with early damage here, as Stephen on the rear. Fakiri, does Fakiri have damage? Surprising to see him so far off the leaders, and Fakiri down in P8 now, as Stephen putting pressure on the Red Bull driver, as we're only on lap 2 and a lot of gaps have formed already, and a bit crazy to see some of the gaps. That was a bit of a crazy start with a lot of drivers spinning around and such, and a couple of drivers with damage. Definitely Michael Louis being one of them, as Cookie setting the fastest lap as Nis tries to catch as Dig gets ahead of Michael Loizino. As Ollie gets ahead of Mallard. SNZ going to try and follow him through, unable to. As Stephen putting pressure on Fakiri. And it seems Nis and Cookie have dropped Zeno in behind. TJ going to put some pressure on Zeno as well. And can Nis shape for a move on Cookie? He's got the extra battery to use. But Cookie is no scrub and knows how to drive a Red Bull. As the yellow flags around, it might have been Ollie Bean resetting the track. We've seen that, Ollie Bean, don't you worry. 20-second penalty, that is, by the way, Ollie, if you're unsure. As Cookie. Well, that actually might have been Ellis. And when Ellis is off again, well, what's he doing off that way? That is another spin. Anywho. Back up to the front. Nis back on the rear of Cookie. And has dropped Zeno in behind. TJ now into P3, into the podium places. Is Hemi going to try and join this battle? And Hemi will have extra battery to use than Zeno. Zeno is going to not have overtake this lap. And Hemi on the inside of turn 3 tries to wrestle a Cadillac through on the inside as there's another yellow flag out. It's Ellis down and around again. As Zeno going to try and get back ahead of the Caddy, but that's the issue with this these regs, is Ellis off the road again, is once you lose a position, you don't have overtake for the rest of the lap, so it's a struggle to get back ahead. As TJ runs wide, opens the door to Hemi Dimes, and Hemi now gonna go side by side, as Zeno right up the rear of Hemi, almost pushing him through the corner. As TJ, I think, doesn't really want, as Ellis is retired in the pit lane. Don't think TJ necessarily wants to lose overtake mode here, but he might have, as Hemi now all over the rear. And Hemi will surely get ahead of TJ. But the yellow flag out may cost some drama here, as Hemi's going to try and time it. But has he gotten illegal? He might have. I think he had gotten illegal there. As Hemi has a big snap there, as Zeno going to try and get through. As, oh lord! That is Nis. Nis has made a massive error. I don't know what's happened Nis here. And Nis has dropped down to P5. Nis has made a massive error. I couldn't even tell what car that was. I thought it was Alice's car leaving the pit lane. And now Zeno side by side with TJ. But Nis now down to P5. He's in the pack and not where he wants to be. And Cookie has essentially been given a very comfortable victory here, as long as there's no safety cars. 5-second gap for the Red Bull driver. And Nis now, at best, is going to be looking at P2 if he can fight his way back through the pack again, as on the inside TJ goes of Zeno, and Nis is going to try and squeeze his way through. On the outside, Nis is going to try and dance around the outside as Zeno got the grip on the inside. And Nis pushed off as Ho-Chin dives it through on the inside of Nis. And side by side they go. A little bit of contact as Geet going to try and follow this through. Nis going for the switchback on Ho-Chin. And can Geet follow through, as on the rear of Ho-Chin, Geet's going to try and look to the inside as he dives it on the inside of his fellow Algerian. And side by side goes Ho-Chin and Geet side by side. And can the Mercedes pull through round the outside? The hard running Haas of Ho-Chin tries to hold it together, and they're still side by side as we head up to turn 4. And these two absolutely nose to tail. Who can get ahead? Geet may have finally squeezed out Ho-Chin and finally gets through into P6. Geet now into P6. TJ with an early penalty. That is not going to help his race, as Gordon spinning down the order. And Gordon not having the best of races as SNZ on the rear of Mallard. As Fakiri off the track, and almost a horrid rejoin for the Red Bull. But the Tier 2 champion having an absolute nightmare race here. Meanwhile, up at the front again, Nis having another snap. as Nis down following TJ on the rear of Hemi. And Nis now down the inside of Zeno. Can he break later than his teammate for this evening? Yes, he can. Lovely move from Nis to get ahead of Zeno. As Mallard and SNZ battle through turn 1 and 2. And Dig's got a good viewpoint in this as Mallard looks for the switchback. Dig washes the tyre onto the grass as he tries to look for a move. Mallard getting back through on SNZ here again. So we'll get the tyre graphic up for everyone to see as a little bit of contact between the Audi and the Haas as Dig now going to try and find his way through on SNZ round the outside. Can Dig go? And still side by side, and Dig finally gets through on the Audi driver. Back up at the front here, Nis pressurising the rear of TJ as he follows TJ and Hemi. Hemi, big snap in the front of this train, and I wonder, does Hemi want to try and play some games as Nis going to look through on the inside of TJ, but thinks better of making a move there. Might be a silly place to make a move as Nis now going to try and burn all the battery down the main straight as they've all got straight line mode enabled, and TJ might try and get through on Hemi as Nis now goes on the inside of TJ and gets that move sorted as Mallard gets a time penalty exiting the final corner as Dig gets through on Mallard. Zeno putting pressure on TJ, but it is Hemi Dimes is the driver who doesn't have overtake mode to use on this lap out of this lead train. But Cookie now, his advantage stands at almost 8 seconds here on lap 8. So Cookie just in a world of his own as SNZ and Mallard continue to battle and swap. As Mallard on the outside of SNZ and looking for the switchback as a little bit of contact with the rear tyre. Mallard goes with SNZ. As Nis putting the pressure back on Hemi Dimes. Zeno on the rear of TJ as well. And surely a slam dunk pass is on the cards for Nis on the rear of Hemi Dimes with overtake mode to use. But can TJ close up to this battle, or will Zeno potentially look for a move on the rear of the Ferrari as Nis gets straight through on Hemi? And TJ, with the benefit of overtake, able to keep ahead of Zeno, and now he'll need to try and pressure Hemi, who doesn't have overtake mode for this lap. As back down the order we go, Mallard and SNZ swapping again, and Mallard back up into P11. As Zeno on the rear of TJ. And the train from P2 down to P7 has been pretty close together. Meanwhile, Cookie up in front after Nis's spin. It's really allowed Cookie just to check off down the road. And he has sent the entire lobby to Gapplebees as we're 9 laps in and he's 9 seconds up the road. As Nis struggling already here. Cookie going to come in after pushing hard on the mediums. Gets a 10-second speeding in the pit lane penalty, which will undo all his hard work. He had pulled a 9-second advantage and now has a 10-second penalty. And with him potentially 2-stopping, he may have to serve that penalty in the pit lane. As Cookie now exiting the box. And he'll come out next to Dig, and Dig gets out ahead of Cookie, but Cookie on these fresh hard tyres. Can he find a way past with ease? We will see. As he closes to the rear of the Mercedes. On the inside, going to get through. And next he has the McLaren of Ollie. These two used to be teammates back at Red Bull. And Ollie, not fighting Cookie at all, knows this is not his battle. Meanwhile, Zeno has lost out to Geet. Geet gets into P4. And Zeno going to look, try and get back through on the Mercedes driver. And this might be costing both of them potential chance at overtaking mode if the car's ahead. Zeno goes very deep, allows a lovely switchback from Gate. But can Gate get overtake from TJ? As Nis now dropping Himi almost out of overtake mode. Does he have it at the line? I think he doesn't have it. And Gate, let's see, does he have it at the line? I think Gate just might have it. As Michael Louis getting a 3-second time penalty. Meanwhile, Hochin on the inside of Zeno in the background. And leaves the track. And doesn't rejoin at the runoff, so might have to give that position back. We'll wait and see. It's not a league race, so at the end of the day, we won't be penalising any of the drivers for what happens in the social races. Dig right on the rear of Ollie, has a little look down the inside of Ollie, but doesn't want to go for anything too crazy. As Zeno on the rear of Hochin. And Dig wanting to put pressure on Ollie, but I think he's being patient, wants to wait until he has the overtake mode enabled. As Himi back inside overtake mode of Nis, as TJ also is as well. Gate might just have it as Zeno into the pit lane, looking to undercut this group of cars, as Hochin flying past the inside of Gate, and Hochin now up to P4. As Hemi sticking with. Meanwhile, TJ, I wonder has TJ lost overtake mode? Let's have a quick look. No, he still has it, but he has lost 7/10 at the start of this lap. Cookie getting ahead of Steven into turn 4, and through turn 5. Steven has a little look on the inside of Cookie, but unable to get ahead of the Red Bull driver. And not much doing there is Fakiri now on the rear of Ollie Bean. And can the Red Bull get through on the inside of Ollie Bean as he looks to lift off? And can the Red Bull size up a move as Nis dropping Himi, as Himi has also dropped TJ. As Fakiri following this battle just up the road between Ollie Bean and Michael Louis. Gate into the box now is Hochin now looking on the rear of TJ and down into turn 1. Can the Aston Martin now break the Ferrari? Side by side they go, and TJ tries to hold it, but lovely move from Hochin. Inside becomes the outside of turn 2, and Hochin now through in to P3 on these hard tyres. So Hochin doing the reverse strategy, and he's been very quick on this reverse strategy, Zeno. Where will he end up as the Mercedes exiting the box of Gate, and Zeno with the successful undercut. Cookie getting a 3-second time penalty, so Cookie now looking at 13 seconds of penalties as he's pushing on a flyer. Meanwhile, Ollie Bean has got ahead of Michael Louis, but now as we head down to turn 1, Fakiri going to look on the rear of this battle as Michael Louis side by side with Ollie Bean. And can they find a way through as Michael Louis still keeping a wheel in? Fakiri not able to find a way through on the Williams and the Aston Martin, as Michael switches back to the inside of turn 4, and Fakiri looking down the inside of turn 4 as Ollie Bean closes off the gap, and Ollie Bean now looking to get back through again on Michael Louis, which he just does, dances around the outside of turn 4 on the exit. Well, on the exit of turn 5 he gets back ahead as Fakiri trying to be very, very patient to Stephen Beecham into the pit lane now. And Michael and Ollie continue to follow each other, but I think Fakiri probably being a bit too patient. I think he needs to try and push on here to get ahead of this pack as Ollie Bean with Michael Louis for pressure as Gate into turn 1 gets ahead of Zeno. Lovely move there as SNZ now on the rear of Mallard, and down into turn 1 the Audi and the Haas Can he get on the inside? Has he looked on the inside but has to back out? Meanwhile in the background, Michael Louis straight ahead of Ollie Bean. Fakiri surely got to follow him through. And yes, he is. Down into turn 1. There's a little bit of contact between Fakiri and Ollie Bean as Ollie Bean leaves the road and Fakiri through after a little bump and a barge from Fakiri. But there's no stewards here today, so what is the worst that could happen? As Ho-Chin follows Hemi Dimes. Hemi going very long along with Nis and TJ on these medium tyres, possibly looking to one stop as things stand. Meanwhile, Cookie seems to be doing the 2 as Cookie looking to catch TJ here. As SNZ getting through on Mallard into turn 1 again. We've got Cookie on the rear of TJ now. And Cookie does not want to wait around, it seems. He's going to make the move on the inside. And Cookie now up to P4. And oh, big snap from Cookie just ahead of the Ferrari of TJ. And I'm sure TJ would have had a change of togs after this because almost seen a Red Bull spin right in front of his car. Which been very distracted. It's TJ into the box along with Hemi Dimes. That unleashes Ho-Chin and Cookie. Picking up another track limit warning potentially as he runs wide out of the final corner. As SNZ on the rear of Mallard. Trying to find a way through. Zeno out ahead of these drivers who are just boxed, although they'll be definitely one stopping. Will Hemi and TJ. Meanwhile, a lot of these other drivers could be 2 stopping. We'll keep an eye out. As Zeno on the rear of Gate. As Ollie Bean picks up a 3-second time penalty, battling with Michael Louis. And as we go down the order, we can see Ollie Bean looking on the rear of Michael, but unable to get ahead of the Aston. So he looks for some gap as Gordon picking up a 3-second time penalty. Nis finally into the box. Cookie back on the rear of Ho-Chin and could now unleash himself into some clear areas. He gets straight through on the Aston Martin driver. But he does have 13 seconds of penalties. And he may serve some of them in the pit lane, but will that leave him susceptible to Nis in the future? We'll have to wait and see. As Zeno on the rear of Gate. Down into turn 1, Zeno gets ahead of Gate as Nis exits just ahead of them. So important for Nis's race to be in some clear air. All he has to worry about is Dig and Ho-Chin, who are still yet to box on the hard tyres. So Nis has got a lovely bit of clear air to use on his hard stint. Meanwhile, TJ gonna have to try, and Timmy and Hemi, sorry, are gonna have to try and work to get through Gate and Zeno, who have boxed a couple laps earlier. Gate possibly going to stop again. Meanwhile, Zeno could potentially go to the end, although it'll be a bit of a struggle. Either way, they may cost them some race time. As Gate following Zeno. And this now as Michael and Ollie swap just out of the pit lane. Michael on the mediums, although it'll be a bit of a stretch to make it to the end here, as Ollie on the inside on the hard tyres, but Ollie's hards definitely can go to the end on this strategy. As Fakiri trying to catch Blue Killer on his strategy, but Fakiri not had the best of Spanish Grand Prix just yet. Meanwhile, Geet trying to stay with Zeno. Zeno trying to stay with Nis, who has 5-lap fresher hard tyres. Although the overtake mode going to be helping Zeno a lot here. Although if Nis can clear Dig, it could provide a headache. As Fakiri getting through on Blue Killer. Blue Killer seems to have made a mistake. Some dirt on the tyres. Meanwhile, Nis now almost pushing the Mercedes of Dig through the final corner, who seems to be backing up Nis into the path of Zeno. And Nis now down the inside of Dig, as Zeno going to also look to get through here if he can, but Dig parking his car exactly where as Zeno does not want it. As Zeno looking for a long winding switchback if he can get some extra grip on the inside. No, he can't find it as he tries to battle with Dig. And Dig's able to keep it ahead. As big snap of the rear from Zeno there. And Geet getting through into P5. Although Geet may have to box again on those medium tyres. But big snap of the rear from Zeno. And that's allowed Nis now a lovely amount of clear air to head off down the road. Now Cookie's battle is between him and Nis. Nis had a big spin earlier, which gave Cookie a major advantage. But then Cookie essentially negated the advantage by speeding in the pit lane. And also getting a 3-second time penalty. Zeno into the rear of Dig there, as Hochin into the box off those hard tyres. As Zeno trying to get through Dig, and he does just that. And Zeno may have lost touch from Geet, and that may allow Geet to get down the road and escape, as Diggs has certainly helped his teammate a bunch here. Especially with Zeno not having overtake mode, although he does have the hard tyres, which should be able to go to the end. Meanwhile, the mediums may struggle. As Diggs on the rear of Zeno. We'll go down the order again. Mallard and SNZ continuously battling throughout this whole race. And I'm assuming both drivers going to have to box again here. Meanwhile, Himi on the rear of Diggs. And considered a move, but thought better of it. I think he wants the overtake mode, although all of this waiting and being patient has allowed TJ to close up again to Hemi. And Diggs may come in, which may cost Hemi the opportunity at even getting overtake mode. I'm not quite sure if he will have it. I think he does have it. We'll double check as he crosses the line. I think he does have overtake. He does. And but all that waiting has allowed TJ to get back inside the range, but can Hemi use that extra bit of battery to escape again? As Dig and Mallard into the box. Mallard looking to undercut SNZ UAE as Zeno now inside the overtake mode of Geet. And it'll be interesting to see when Cookie decides to box, as he's got another 3-second time penalty. It's now 6 for the 6-time champion. And could that cost him massively in the race? He's pushing like a bat out of hell. But could the 16 seconds of penalties that he has now cost him massively here? As Michael and Ollie Bean continue to battle. as Diggs follows, and Michael back through again around the outside of Ollie Bean. Yellow flag out. Oh, and Michael Louis around. Big spin for Michael Louis. Massive spin there as Blue Killer off in the wall. Not quite sure how Blue Killer ended up off here, but either way, massive spin for Blue Killer. So he'll try and recover and catch Michael Louis. But Michael Louis, the massive spin himself, as he was battling with Ollie Bean. And that cost him massively. As Michael Louis spins again. And Michael Louis having an absolute struggle as he's caught on the curb. And finally gets the gear selected to get out of the way. And Michael does as Cookie into the box now to serve his 10-second time penalty. And on to fresh mediums. 10-lap stint on these mediums is a 6-second time penalty. So not only does he have to get ahead of Nis, but he's got to pull 6 seconds as well. That's going to be a big ask for the Red Bull driver, but he has done amazing stints in the past, and this could be another one as Michael Louis is retired in the pit lane. Unhappy with how his evening has unfolded. Meanwhile, TJ and Hemi looking to catch Zeno in their battles for the podium. Hochin also involved here on fresh mediums. As SNZ leaves the box. And will he resume his battle? As he has to overtake the Aston leaving the box. And Mallard round the outside gets through. And SNZ and Mallard's battle is going to resume, it seems, as Mallard successfully pulls the undercut, but probably wasn't as effective as he would have liked. As Gordon and Blue Killer back into the box, possibly battling for the fastest lap. As Zeno into pit lane. And Hemi and TJ get gifted a podium position as they've got now Hochin prowling in the background. Hochin wants potentially P2 here. We've got Cookie on the charge, 4 seconds back as well. So a lot still to play for here. Cookie with 6 seconds of penalties. He's got a lot to do in this last number of laps. Meanwhile, if we head down the order, Gate right on the rear of Zeno, and Zeno currently P7 as Gate trying to put pressure on Zeno. Zeno on the fresh mediums, and possibly what he can hope for at best is probably getting ahead of Stephen Beecham, but can he get up any higher than that? 9 laps to go. We'll wait and see. Can he make up that time? Meanwhile, Hochin desperately trying to get inside overtake mode. Cookie's made up 2 seconds in a lap here as he looks to catch Hochin. As down the order we go, Mallard and SNZ battling, and Mallard gets through on SNZ there. As Hemi keeps it out of TJ. And Hemi doing well to defend despite TJ having overtake mode enabled. But will this train play a factor in Cookie's charge? Because Cookie's going to try and get through all 3 of them and then charge after Nis. And there's only about 8 laps to go in this one. As Hochin following here, and Cookie has caught another 2 seconds in a lap and is now inside the overtake mode, and I'm sure Hochin is thinking that he wants to get a move on in behind TJ and Hemi Dimes. But can TJ defend with the battery? Or will Ho-Chin catch? We'll wait and see. As Cookie now has overtake mode to use, so that'll certainly help him catch these drivers up ahead. But Nis looks like he almost has this in the bag as Ho-Chin now diving down the inside of TJ. Round turn 4, and Ho-Chin has got through as TJ looks back down the inside of Ho-Chin, but Ho-Chin round the outside makes that move stick, and a beautiful move from Ho-Chin into P3 as TJ going to back through, but almost pushing the Aston Martin through as the Ferrari going a little wide. Cookie looks to the inside of turn 9, doesn't want to go for the move, but on the exit Cookie gets way more grip and going to get through on the Ferrari surely as Cookie round the outside. And now Cookie has an opportunity to get both drivers in a lap here, which would be massive for his race if he can. As Ho-Chin tries to get ahead of him, he dimes. Cookie going to try and get ahead of Ho-Chin. And will we see an absolute send into turn 1? Cookie on the inside of Ho-Chin. Ho-Chin doesn't want to battle this too hard, but does have a little bit of contact with the Red Bull. And Cookie gets through and will now try and get through on Hemi as quickly as possible. Ho-Chin also has to back out when battling Cookie. As Cookie in behind, being patient, but all this waiting is costing him time, and he could be catching this. DRS enabled for Cookie as he follows Hemi, but he is waiting for the overtake mode, it seems like, but that's only going to give him 5 laps of pushing to catch Nis by the end. And not only has he got to catch Nis, but he's got to try and overtake him and pull 6 seconds, so forgive me but for not having any belief as Ho-Chin's gone wide. It's opened the door to TJ. TJ won't have overtake mode this lap as Cookie gonna surely get ahead of Hemi Downs, but Hemi now down to P3. He's pulled the gap to TJ, but TJ, can he stick with Hemi or will he have to worry about Ho-Chin instead? As Cookie now 9 seconds is the gap between him and Nis, and he's got to pretty much make up 3 seconds a lap, I would say. So we'll keep an eye on his progress. TJ picks up another penalty, which essentially eliminates his opportunity at getting a podium here. Looks like the podium will be Nis, Cookie and Hemi. And if not them, then Ho-Chin maybe, although Ho-Chin now 2 seconds back from TJ after whatever happened to him. We missed what happened to the Aston Martin driver to drop it in the order. Meanwhile, Zeno and Gate on the rear of Stephen Beecham. And can Zeno recharge the battery to go for a move on Stephen here? But 4 laps to go in this one. And Cookie needs an absolute charge, otherwise there'll be back-to-back victories for Nis here in this social race. There's a yellow flag out, and as Cookie... Oh, Cookie's made a mistake out of the final corner. 10-second track limit penalty. And Cookie seems to have made a mistake out of the final corner. Damage for Cookie on the left front of that end plate. And Cookie, I think I spoke too soon. His podium appears to be gone. As Zeno getting through in the background. Steven side by side with the Mercedes. And can Gate get through? And yes, he does. No, he doesn't. Oh, they're both in the wall. Both in the wall. Stephen Beecham out. And it's going to be a VSC here on lap 29. As Gate and Stephen come together. Gate retires on track. And a dramatic ending here with 2 drivers out as they're into the wall. Which will give Cookie an opportunity to... Oh, never mind. Cookie's retired. Okay. Nice, lads. As Cookie's given up for the day. And in the end, TJ might have a chance for a podium, but he might have thrown it away to Ho-Chin, who does have a Owen Mallard's going to drive through, and that's going to hurt his battle against SNZ. The only driver with a drive through is Mallard, and unfortunately for Mallard, all his hard work against SNZ is gone. Meanwhile, TJ now on the rear of Himmy. Is Himmy going to try and defend here? As TJ on the rear of Himmy. But these two still battle as SNZ ahead, or well, still behind Mallard. Mallard though with the drive-through. Certainly it's going to be inevitable that SNZ will get gifted P8. But I think Mallard still wants to have some fun and battle regardless. Meanwhile, Gordon round the outside of Ollie Bean as these two battle over P11. And Gordon trying for the way through as in the background Mallard keeps ahead. As Gordon putting pressure on Ollie Bean. And surely the McLaren with some overtake mode will get through on the Williams. Gordon not close enough to move. TJ down the inside of Himmy here. And TJ does get through. But is it too little too late for TJ? As SNZ still trying to get ahead of Mallard, who has that drive through, but once SNZ is ahead of Mallard, I don't think he'll catch Ollie in time, so it looks like P8 will be the best SNZ can hope for. Is Gordon putting pressure on Ollie Bean and wants this move on the Williams driver. And so around the outside he tries to send it, but cannot find the grip. That's around the outside of turn 13 as Gordon picks up a 3-second time penalty. As it's a very surprising place to make the move. And Gordon now back on the rear of Ollie Bean. As Gordon's weaving this way and that. I think Gordon's just having fun out there as he dives around the outside of the Williams driver. And off the track Gordon goes. Meanwhile in the background, Himmy on the rear of TJ. As Gordon back through an Ollie Bean. TJ and Himmy may run into this battle as Ollie Bean looks down the inside of Gordon. Himmy round the outside of TJ. And I don't know why TJ's battling this too hard, because he wants to escape Ho-Chin to get his podium. But maybe TJ's like, screw it, I want Himmy to not get the podium, I want Ho-Chin to get it. I want Ho-Chin to get P2, sorry. So you never know what the driver's justifications are, but currently Himmy looks nailed on as Mallard finally in to serve that drive-through. Unfortunately for Mallard, who had a decent race battling with SNZ for P8, is now down to P10, but may still exit ahead of Gordon and Ollie Bean. As we start the final lap, and Himmy gonna try and burn the battery as he looks to catch TJ. And TJ doesn't even battle it with Himmy as Himmy gets through into P2. But can Ho-Chin get close to TJ and try and make the move for the podium on track? We'll wait and see. But it looks like we may end as we are. And we'll go on board with Nis, who had a big spin, essentially handed Cookie a big opportunity to win, but Cookie, in the end, threw it all away. And Nis now finishes across the line and wins in Spain, wins in Barcelona. It's back-to-back wins in the WHF social races for Nis, as Hemi on his return finishes in P2, Hochin on his return into P3, as TJ P4 with penalties. Next it'll be Zeno and Diggs, two of the Algerians making debuts this evening. And into P5 and P6 as Ollie in P7 ahead of SNZ and Fakiri. And this is going to be a battle to the line. Can Fakiri get ahead of SNZ? But it looks like the Audi may hold on. Fakiri trying to burn the battery, but I don't think he has enough, and SNZ does well to hold on to P8. Very strong result from the Audi driver. I'm sure he will be very happy with that race as he battled with Mallard. But thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed, this has been WHF. I've been WHF Al, and this has been our second social race / pre-season race of the season. And Nis wins back-to-back after winning the finale in Season 7. Before we head into Season 8, Nis wins back-to-back. Can that be an ode to what's going to happen this season? We'll have to wait and see. After winning the overall Constructor Championship with V-Carb, will Nis win it again with Red Bull? Will he win the Drivers' Championship with Red Bull? We'll have to wait and see. He's moved from V-Carb to Red Bull, and we'll keep an eye on how Nis will do throughout the season. But Cookie, essentially losing his Red Bull seat, I'm sure will come back with a vengeance, and Cookie with the fastest lap. But there we have our results. Cookie does get the fastest lap, almost a second quicker than Nis, although he was doing an alternate strategy. He was doing the 2-stop, as Nis was doing the 1. But thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed, please drop a follow to WHF. Also, if you have not joined the Discord yet, please do. Discord is in the bio. Sign-up deadline is not released yet. We still have a couple more weeks before the sign-up deadline. And for those of you still watching, we will have the Season 7 award show this weekend. I just need to schedule in a day. And also, hopefully, if I'm feeling a bit better, it should be easy to do, but we'll wait and see. But anyway, thank you all for watching. We'll find some to raid on our way out, and we will raid we'll raid Summer Rocks 1. Anyway, thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed, please drop a follow, and we'll be back next week for the Season 7 award show. But thank you all for watching, and goodbye.